welcome to the Godzilla podcast. We are back, and guys and gals, guess what? We're watching Rebirth of Mothra. I'm Drew.
I am Joe.
And this is Joe and mine's for behind-the-scenes facts. Joe and I are recording separately. We did our bonus episode last time, but this is the first time we're recording commentary on something separately, so we'll see how this flies like a reborn Mothra.
We'll see how this flies or falls, as it were.
Falls like a Deskidora or flies like a Mothra Leo?
Let's just
so do you want to
started.
Just jump right into this stupid movie?
We are both watching the Blu-ray, I believe, edition, the Godzilla Collection version.
I think it's like a Sony release sometime around 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's the Blu-ray, there's a play movie button, and we are going to press play in 3, 2, 1, go.
So this movie was released in the U.S. On VHS in like 1999-ish, I think, 98 maybe, and it was released with an English dub. Then like 2000, I believe, was the DVD release, and still only an English dub. And then several years later, when we got this release, which Joe and I are watching, this is the trilogy pack. It's got all 3 Rebirth of Mothra films. It was the first time that we received the Japanese language version of this film in the U.S. on an official release.
Nice. Okay, so we're actually seeing something like a new product in a way, right?
Yeah, new. I mean, it's 15 years old-ish, but, first time we got it over here. I don't know why we need it over here or anywhere for that matter, but it's here.
Drew, had you ever seen this movie before? Watching this?
I hadn't. You'd seen it, though, right?
I thought so. Part of me's thinking I might have seen a different Rebirth of Mothra.
Did you watch this movie this week to prepare for this, or are you going in,
I watched it yesterday.
Oh, you saw it yesterday.
This.
I saw it about 4 or 5 days ago. And, Joe, at the beginning of this movie, we're seeing Mothra, and this is classico Mothra, close up on her, lots of glitter around her. I'm like, this is good so far. This scene is good.
Was the last movie we saw Mothra in Godzilla vs. Mothra, the 92 film?
I wouldn't know the year, but yeah, I'm assuming that sounds right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the last time I remember seeing her.
Mothra threw the bad moth into the sea. Oh man, I'm forgetting names already. Oh, we are starting well. Thank you. Batra throws Batra into the sea. There was the weird symbol, right? And then Mothra goes up into space, and then there's like a bunch of little dust Mothras, right?
See, this makes more sense to me, this title that says we have the Japanese title above and like the kanji, and then below in subtitle Rebirth of Mothra. So I was like, God, that's very few letters for, or, kanji, I guess, isn't letters, but for the whole phrase Rebirth of Mothra. So this film is just Mothra in Japanese. I think there was a second title for it, like an alternate title, but most places it was just Mothra, because only upon reading into this, Joe, this is a reboot of the Mothra series. So like some 30-ish years later after, our, I don't know, I think mostly beloved standalone Mothra film. You and I liked that one for the most part.
Yeah, we both liked that one.
I just thought in watching this movie that this was kind of an alternate take on it, or I hadn't seen it as like a full-on reboot of Mothra and her origins and all this stuff surrounding the fairies.
What is confusing to me is whether or not I'm supposed to take this as a sequel to Godzilla vs. Mothra, or if it's just a standalone reboot of the Mothra.
I really, and finding not much about this film, Joe. Not much at all.
Not much at all.
I don't know when the origin of this story that became Rebirth of Mothra really started. I think it was a Tomoyuki Tanaka idea that kind of got fleshed out by some writer. I'm sure the writer's credited here. I just haven't found his name. But this was the last Tanaka-produced Toho kaiju film, so this is his last go at it. And apparently this was his idea, so thanks, Tanaka.
Hey, we got to thank Tanaka for a lot of stuff, all right?
We got to thank it for a lot of stuff, but when you put it into the perspective of Tanaka was sick when Godzilla versus Hedorah came about, so that's how that got greenlit and shot, and then when he got well again, he's like, Hedorah, this is like terrible, what have you done to Godzilla? And you and I like that, and then this movie that was like, I don't know how much of an idea he had before this got fleshed out into a whole film, but based on Tanaka's idea, we got this. I don't know, Tanaka. Come on, man. You're
what do you think about
all over the good one?
What do you think about these excavators thinking that big symbol in the ground is an ancient fossil, as opposed to an ancient ruin?
Horrible, horrible treatment of what could be like an archaeological find. They're like, let's stab it with a screwdriver, break it open, stand on top of it. I mean, when in the first shot, because, beginning of this film, we're at a dig site, and they're just, cutting down live trees, which I'm like, why? I guess they're clearing the forest for building. They say later on that it's like for paper, but they're live trees. I don't know. Maybe they do that, but it just seemed weird to me. Hit a big monument like stone that's buried under the ground, and when it shows up again, they must have uncovered a lot of it, because there's like a lot of these rune type stones, and yeah, they find that little symbol and they don't care. They walk up on top of it. They're like breaking it apart with a screwdriver. Yeah.
Hey, give this one to your kids.
Yeah. Possibly priceless archaeological find. Just take that home to your kids.
Hey, Drew, I think this movie has a theme, an environmental theme.
I think so,
I don't know.
too,
This is
Joe.
what I'm guessing. This is what I'm guessing based upon, the movie starting out with some excavators chopping down some trees, and then, of course, the close-up of one of the trucks just straight up running over a bird's nest. And then the monster we get later on in the film is an energy consumer, destroyer monster.
Yep.
And there's fire and everything. And, of course, at the end of the movie, the lady goes, someday, I hope that our grandchildren don't have to live in a world where we destroy the environment.
Joe, if there is a theme in this movie, then you've hit the nail on the head, because that's got to be the only theme, man. As far as, like,
the
character development or characters, period, that's it. It's just... Mm-hmm. We got to preserve the environment, the movie, and I mean, god darn it, if I ever had to stay in for a monster fight, there's not much to this movie, although this is a cool shot.
Oh, the little coin flip?
Yeah, that it like follows the coin up into the air. So we're introduced to the family, the main boss of this cutting down the forest group. That's the father of this family. He's like... I don't know. He's not a bad guy. He has a line later on where he says his wife is, he's complaining about there being so much paper. And she's like, well, that's your job though, isn't it? Because he, cuts down trees in a logging company, whatever, paper producers. They're just at the beginning stages of it. Deforestation. And then he goes, yeah, but I guess they don't have to waste so much of it. So I was like, okay, they're trying to make him sympathetic, I guess. It's a movie with fairy characters and a family. And that's
right.
Those are
fairies and families. The movie. So one of the better things.
Right here. Guest cameo. You see that guy?
Yeah.
That's the world's worst paleontologist.
Is that really?
Right there for like a moment. I was thinking maybe
serious?
he'd show up again as the driver, but it's just the smallest cameo ever. Super well known, great actor.
Wait, did you
look
this up?
In a lot of Japanese films. No, I didn't look it up, but that's totally him. I just spotted him on my first viewing of this film.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He was underlit. I don't know if I buy it completely.
Absolutely him. He has a very distinct face.
Drew, would you put money on this?
I would.
Okay. All right. I don't even know if he was alive in 1996. So.
Okay. What were you saying though?
I was saying actually one of the better things about this movie is the family dynamic. Honestly, I'd rather watch this movie that's happening right now with the mother and the kids and one of the the kids fighting and one of them pretending to cry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the mother being kind of disappointed in her husband popping a beer in the kids' room. But
I know
like,
I thought that was strange too. I'm like, just drinking a beer on your daughter's bed.
That's right. That whole section of the movie I actually kind of like. And spoilers for the ending part where we tell you how we feel about the movie. That's
as if we're not going to let you know throughout.
Reaches a high point, right about here in the movie. Also, Shobijin. Are they called? They're called something else, right? In this movie,
I am extremely sorry, Joe. It cannot be him. He died in 1982. That's Takashi Shimura. The man who cameos there looks extremely similar to Takashi Shimura, the world's worst paleontologist from Godzilla 1954.
So they wouldn't put him in the movie and like not light up his face.
I thought for just like a moment, he's just like, hey, just a little Easter egg here, but nope. What were you saying? Sorry.
What are the Shobijin called in this movie? They're called something else.
The Elias.
The Elias.
Yep.
Why? Do you know any reason why?
Because it's a reboot, and like in this reboot, so the Shobijin that we've come to know and love, the little beautiful fairies, whatever, they're totally different. They're still teeny, but they don't speak in unison. They have two distinct personalities, which, thank goodness, that would make this movie even harder to get through if they were the same. So it allows for some, conversation between them, like actually development and having distinct personalities. Then they have a sister who's the bad guy in this film, and her name is Belvera, I think. So it's Belvera, who's the bad one of the Elias race, and they're the last three of their race. And then Mal or Mona. So they erroneously call her Mona in the dub here. Like in all the English, sorry, not dub, in the English subtitles, it says Mona, but her name is Mal and Laura. Mal, Laura, good Elias, Belvera, bad Elias. Sure.
Yeah, so are these just like a race of people or like a different family?
They are somehow linked with Mothra, and just like how Mothra in this film is the last Mothra, and then she just laid an egg in her like weakened form, which is Mothra and her egg. They're the very last surviving members of the Mothra species, and the Elias are the very last survivors of their little species. So like as if we didn't already feel bad enough like in real life about environmental destruction, I guess we're wiping out giant moths and little fairies too. I don't know, we might not be wiping them out, but they're going away from something somehow.
So as far as the fairy twins are concerned, I will say high point of this movie is that they are the most attractive fairy twins in the entire
Oh yeah, I am 1,000% with you, and I actually think, Joe, you're going to be like, why? Because here we are. We always ogle these Japanese women. We shouldn't, but we do because we're
every actress in this movie is attractive. Yeah.
The mother, I think she's the prettiest female Japanese actress we've gotten in this entire series.
No, but very attractive. Also,
Mizuno, very close, but I don't know. I just, what did he say? Sorry.
I'm watching the kid fly around the room.
See, like with the wirework the brother deserved that. The brother deserved that. He was like pinching his sister's cheeks and like physically harming her. And then when the little sister gets mind controlled by Belvera, the evil Elias sister, and like the way she's
lit like a demon.
Yep, like The Grudge, like straight up one of the little ghost demon children, whatever the heck they are from. Yeah, The Grudge.
Oh, man.
Because she's mind controlled, man.
Do you happen to know special effects lights? Like, what the heck is that kid? I did not notice that the first watch. Did you see what that kid was playing with?
Yeah, I didn't either. It's like a soccer ball on a string. But the little brother, the older brother.
But he doesn't want to lose it, so he keeps it on a string.
I would assume, I don't know, man. That's like when you play the... neither you and I are very into sports like at all, Joe, so you won't remember it. But you know what Napoleon Dynamite plays with on the pole, and like to try to look cool, he hits it and it spins it around the pole. It's like that, but with a soccer ball.
Oh my gosh. What the
Tether
heck is
ball?
that thing called? Tether ball.
Yeah,
It's tethered, but it's just like in his hands, like he's using it like a yo-yo.
Yep.
What is
and it's
happening?
A full-size soccer ball.
All right,
Man,
people at
I think
home,
a lot
you
of
can
this-
tweet me
So-
if you ever played with a soccer ball on a string.
Man, we're reaching here if we're talking about soccer balls on strings. I am okay with the movie thus far. I really am. I thought we got a lot of movie left. They're developing the characters, or they're introducing the characters fairly quickly. Like the brothers getting into some trouble with the evil Elias. I like his acting. He's just like a kid actor who's having fun. Seems like he's having fun throughout this. And, then this fight section happens between the fairy Mothra and Garu Garu, which is Belvera's miniature steed, a little dragon. I really like the design of Garu Garu, don't you? He's a little mini dragon. Do you not like him? I think he's like very animated in the face and just like a cool little dragon.
Frankly, Drew, I cringe throughout the entirety of this movie whenever anything miniature is flying around. And we're about to get a 40-minute scene consisting of only that.
See, I thought it was all fine because maybe it's because I watch Power Rangers. I am just totally okay to
All right.
take a note on the definite inspiration here for the redesign of these Elias Shobijin whatever. They totally make them into like Super Sentai Ranger Troopers or Henshin Hero. Their costumes make them look like they're like ready to fight, right?
Yeah, I guess they're more warrior-like, certainly.
Yeah, they're really colorful, and they just look like they're part of some battle team. I don't know. It's total tokusatsu fest here, where just live-action fantasy can get into it and can merchandise it to your kids.
Yeah. I mean, they just put the toys on screen and flew them around.
All over, exactly. I mean, what is Fairy, their steed? So, at the beginning of the movie, that was a little thing that pulled me out of it early on. Maul
Fairy.
and Laura, the good Elias, exactly. They're standing in front of full-size Mothra. This is actually a pretty cool effect, I think. Like, just the Belvera opens up a beer, and she's teeny tiny, so she's standing on top of the can, and then she gets, like, blasted back. None of it are good effects. They are cool effects, however, because it's like, that's, clever and fun.
Oh man, these effects did not age well.
No.
At all.
Joe, because we grew up in the 90s, like I was a little kid when this movie came out and released in the States, 99, so I would have been 8 years old. Like these effects, this type of stuff I'm seeing, the whole color palette, the way the kids like act, look, the 90s, and even in like 90s Japan, it just reminds me of my childhood. Like I can see all this stuff and makes me feel like a kid again.
That was straight up a shot of someone throwing the toy dragon at the window in front of the kid's face, wasn't it?
Yep. See, I like a lot of the cinematography here, and honestly, like the whole fight throughout the house, I was totally into this, loving it. It goes on for so long, Joe.
True.
It goes on way too long.
Like I said, we're at the beginning of a 40-minute sequence. Look at this.
So
it just keeps going.
Yeah,
it's like it's a dogfight happening in the living room
in the house between Fairy Mothra and Garu Garu. Yep. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but so I began to say what Fairy Mothra is. Maul and Laura are in front of the giant Mothra above her egg, and they go, "Fairy." Joe, that's your next thing, because you always went, "Baby,
baby."
Now we got Fairy. And Fairy is a tiny steed, which looks like Mothra with like a slightly different color palette. It's like a light yellow. It's like a cutesy little stuffed animal version of Mothra. And like exactly when you say they throw the toys at us, it is a toy.
I don't know Okay. Do you think that the actress, I guess because we can't find any information on this movie, do you think that they put the actress on like a giant version of like
The
a giant
dragon?
puppet of the dragon thing?
I totally think that's what happened, and I just had to mention that shot that just barely happened where she gets knocked off her steed, but like this is Belvera. She gracefully like lands on her feet from like pretty high up, and then Garu comes from behind her, and this is all done like in miniature on the floor. It's like blue screen, green screen, and whatever. But I think they blend it well with the what they're shooting. I think Joe is definitely going to say otherwise. But then she like jumps up and onto Garu and flies off. I'm like, this is all pretty inventive. I mean, yes, effects did not age well. But like, again, I can buy them because I grew up with effects just like this. And so I'm watching this just thinking, this is stuff that I saw. I didn't see this movie as a kid, but stuff just like this I saw all the time as a kid. Like, I was totally into... I mean, I was a kid, whatever the heck was on the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon, the live action stuff. And all of these cheesy effects look just like this. Maybe this is like a notch or two lower because it's, over in Japan where maybe they haven't caught up with American special effects quite. But it's up there to 90s, 90s par, 90s level, not modern day by no means, and not even, less than 10 years later. But they have enough like practical shots there where it was like a practical little miniature dragging the tablecloth underneath the table. So they cut, I think, enough that it's pretty cool.
I don't know what's more painful, the practical toy hitting it in little tiny shots. There's an actual like toy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's more painful that or them flying through the air. And holy crap, that's a lot of blood.
Yeah, I know. I think it's the most painful is the shot of Belvera, the actress, like, whatever the actress's name. I'm sorry, I'll look it up later. But her character biting a blood pack after she gets knocked around. And, like, she is, evil. She stares at her sisters, which at this point, there's, like, a little throwaway line of dialogue where you find out they're sisters. And then later on, it's, like, fully explained. It's like this. It's there are practical walls, like the walls being broken into, and then they overlay the like miniature shots of Garu and Belvera bouncing into the walls. Pretty cool. Anyway, she bites a blood pack and stares at them angrily, and it like drips down the side of her mouth. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I gotta tell you, my roommate's reaction to this movie. I have one roommate.
Oh, you watched it with them?
Canadian roommate. No, started with them. And during this part, got some eye rolls from the Canadian roommate, and then the Colombian roommate went, "This is the best movie I've ever seen." And
okay. I'm somewhere in between both of them. That's so funny.
And I'm going, hold on, is he being sarcastic or has he never seen a movie before?
Right here. She's looking at the wall. As I'm watching this, because this is going on forever, so at this point I was like, upon my first watch, just looking for stuff to nitpick, because why not? But she's scanning the room, because Fairy and the two Elias twins, along with the brother-sister mom, are all hiding, and she's got, Belvera, right against the wall, and then she can look around the room to find them. Instead, she chooses to look directly at the wall, scans the wall, and then they throw something in another direction and she shoots it. I don't know, man. This is not... Parts of this are not the most well coordinated.
Yeah. But I mean, they had like those computer controlled... Well, probably not computer controlled. They're really smooth dolly shots and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and all this, the boys being lifted up by this is so cool.
Yeah, the practical effects are really cool. The wire work is really cool.
Yep.
But yeah, any of the digital effects or the green screen effects, they do not hold up.
I just think that they splice between all of that so quickly in this. Like, they don't linger on much for too long. I mean, every once in a while when it does several shots in a row of the, blue screen, green screen, and whatever, then it's like, But like this right here, when the Mothra twins fall down onto, the velvet painting, somehow they make it look better. That looks terrible. Little, oh man, that looked terrible.
I never understood, like, what's wrong with Mothra or Fairy, excuse me, that
Fairy?
he, like, shrinks. You're right.
Fairy got hit with a shot, and the shot that I was, the shot, like in camera terms, that I was saying looked terrible was a 3D model of that Fairy Mothra fell down and then morphed into, like, its weakened state, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like magically weakened. Not the best line reading, by the way. Mama. It doesn't, that part made me cringe.
So, when you talk about the family aspect of this being the best part of the movie, fully agree. And I agree to, like, the nth degree, because I am an older brother with a little sister. We're the only, like, we're just two children in a family. We're the only siblings. Yeah, I totally felt for this brother-sister relationship. In fact, if the movie wasn't so terrible, like, somewhere at about the midpoint of the film, I was going to, like, recommend it to my sister to watch. And then by the end, I'm like, nah, she doesn't need to see this.
Well, if we're going to talk about how terrible this movie is, let's just say we start out with these characters and the kids have something to do. And then as soon as the monster comes into the middle of the movie, it's about watching Mothra fight. And then you nod off because that's what happens when a movie loses steam.
Man, three things happen in this movie. Characters are established. This fight scene in the house with the miniature dog fight, as you called it, and then the rest of the movie is just the fighting between Ghidorah and Mothra, and then there's like 10 or 15 minutes at the very tail end where the new Mothra shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like nothing happens, man.
Sorry.
People can argue that, but there's just the most drawn out, prolonged, extended sections of the movie where only like one thing is happening. It's so boring.
Hey, who is Megumi Kobayashi? On Wikipedia, she was top billed, but I don't know who she is. She like
You're
the
talking
little
about
girl?
top billed for this film, or?
Yeah, top billed for this film.
Because I have so many tabs pulled up because, like, there's nothing on this dang movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, just really quick before I get rid of this tab. Ghidorah, Joe, portrayed by the suit actor Mizuho Yoshida. He was, and I just lost it, he was Gamera several times. Oh, sorry. He was Legion in the same year, Gamera 2 Attack of Legion. So he's Legion in that movie. Then he portrays Ghidorah in this movie. He portrays Dagara. I don't know who that is in Rebirth of Mothra 2. And he plays Godzilla in GMK. Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. So this dude's been Godzilla.
Wow.
He's been a lot of things.
Yeah, well, so he must, is he like a free agent suit man?
He's got to be, man. He's got to be like, just, I don't know, picking gigs up from wherever. Because he's also like Solid Snake voices him in the Japanese dubs in like a couple of Metal Gear video games. So I'm like, Ghidorah is Solid Snake. He's also Legion, which I've heard is really good in Gamera 2. Yeah, I just didn't want to get rid of this tab before I got that because there's not much else on this movie.
Wow. That's cool.
So, Rebirth of Mothra. Who's the actress that you were just naming?
Megumi Kobayashi. I don't know who she plays.
Megumi Kobayashi.
Though. She's only 41 now.
Oh, she's Maul.
So
she's the older. So, the three Mothra twins, the Mothra triplets, I guess, in this film. Maul is the older one? I don't know. She acts older, but she's like the one in orangish yellow. Yeah, she's the brave one. Actually, she represents wisdom. Then Laura, the blue-dressed Mothra twin, represents love, and she's always like, I don't know, she's a little bit more timid than Maul. And then the Belvera, she represents courage, and she is disillusioned by humans, while Maul and Laura believe that humans can, still protect the environment, I guess, even though they're doing terrible things to the environment. They believe in us, and Belvera has turned against humans. Yep. Megumi Kobayashi is Maul.
So who plays the mother?
Her name is Hitomi Takahashi.
Hitomi Takahashi. And
Dude,
you are in the middle of going to get a poster of her on Amazon. Is that correct?
I'm gonna get married this year, so no. But if things had turned out differently for me and I was not getting married, sure, why not? Go full bore into the Rebirth of Mothra film, and just I would.
Sorry, Kazuki Futami, right? Or am I getting that mixed up?
Hitomi Takahashi is the mother.
Hitomi Takahashi. Oh, that's right. You just
all you got to do, Joe.
I just forgot.
Just Google Rebirth of Mothra. Scroll down a little bit to cast. Tell me which one is the. Megumi Kobayashi's headshot there in like all the cast. She's the one that's exuding sex appeal. Let's just say that much. Mm-hmm, all the rest of them have pretty normal headshots, but she's like all glamour. Yeah. Sexy.
She's also like a singer, right? They're all, aren't they? Why are they always all singers? What in the world is going on here?
Well, I mean, you got to hold up that tradition from the original Mothra with the Peanuts, right? They were singers. Right. They were a singing duo.
Hitomi Takahashi is in a movie called Fruits of Passion, which looks like a porno from the poster.
Well, Joe, again, getting married, but, Okay. This is a G-rated podcast, folks, but Hitomi Takahashi, very, very pretty woman.
It's got Klaus Kinski in it. Holy crap. What is going on here? 1981,
so what's going on in the
Fruits
movie?
Of Passion.
So where the father broke out that little Elias seal of on the ruins of like his work site, then he gave it to his daughter. Like what happened at that moment is he uncovered Deskidora, I believe, and like Belvera sensed it from wherever she was at. This is early on in the film. And Belvera goes after the Elias seal, the little, like to actual humans, it's just like a small charm, like they put it on a necklace thing for the little girl. But to the twin fairies, it's like a full-on shield plate for them, and it has some sort of magical powers. So now, at this point in the movie, Belvera has found that tomb that the father unsealed by pulling off that little charm, and now Deskidora is coming to life.
There's an awkward shot that just happened. I don't know if you saw it.
There's a lot of awkward shots in this movie, but it doesn't linger on many.
The puppet looked oddly phallic from a certain angle, and
What? Have you seen the other two films in this trilogy?
I'm starting to think that I saw like the third one or something because I didn't. Then
apparently you've seen the good one,
movie.
Which people are saying.
What? No.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. My feeling after the end of it was that it was bad, but I could be wrong. Maybe I saw the second one. No idea.
Maybe it's good in comparison to the other two, because the general consensus I'm getting from people on Twitter, bear through the first two, and then the third one is good. We will find out, but that's what I keep hearing.
Okay, well, we got some good explosions. A decent scene, I think, when he's in the truck and he can't control it, I guess. And then the evil lady uses electric charges from the dragon thing to blow it up?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, straight up, Deskidora is, okay, if this fact is to be believed, Deskidora is one of 2 Toho film kaiju to breathe real fire on set as opposed to a spray or optical ray, along with Orochi and Yamato Takeru, a.k.a. the 8-headed dragon. So we haven't seen that one yet, even though that came out before this movie. I think it was like 94, 95-ish. But, yeah, there's definitely real fire being breathed by Deskidora in this. Like, there's a lot of shots that are, really wide shots of Deskidora walking across the land. And I was like, that's a straight-up flamethrower coming out of the suit's mouth.
So he's using a kite to get...
It's kid fantasy, man. This is straight out of a Three Ninjas type movie that you'd watch here in America, like, American 90s kids fare, or a lot of this reminded me of just stuff from like Home Alone or its sequels where kids do stuff that's not realistic, but to kids you're like, wow, that's cool. Because it provides a way for the little brother to help out, because Fairy Mothra is like out of commission, so he's trying to help out the other fairy twins by flying them around on a kite, and somehow he can control it enough to smack them holding onto that kite into Garu Garu. Yep, that happens in the film.
It gets something for the give something for the characters to do. I'm surprised they didn't put that much effort into the second half of the film.
Dude, you're right. Right, the middle part of this film to the end just goes on for this felt like the longest movie we've watched. I mean, we didn't watch this one together.
It was pretty
in
freaking
our podcast
long,
history.
It's
106
so minutes, which for one of these movies, that's pretty long. Like, I had this discussion yesterday because we watched this movie. I was like, hey,
yeah,
a bad movie needs to be 80 minutes.
Yep.
Because then you can like enjoy the badness of it. But if it gets past that, it's like insufferable. Just because it like keeps going. And I thought the movie was going to end multiple times.
Oh yeah, this probably holds the record for the most times I've checked the like where we are in the film, like at what point we are at the timeline, I guess, whatever. Yep. I kept pausing it and being like, oh, still got 40 minutes left. Pausing it, still got a half an hour left. Pausing it, only 15 minutes left, thank goodness.
Oh my gosh, there really is nothing on this movie. It's freaking me out. Right now, Drew, I'm missing the Academy Awards.
No, I thought about that too. I've been watching a lot of films like in prep for it. I watched Roma, A Star Is Born. I don't really remember many more that I've seen. I mean, I watched Black Panther earlier this year, but
I've seen all the nominees.
Nice.
Yeah. It's one of those years. And I got to tell you, I think, obviously we'll know by the time this podcast is over. I think Star Is Born has got to take it, right?
I really think so. I enjoyed it. Man, okay, to get to what we're watching, Rebirth of Mothra, because we're certainly not dating this film by talking about the 2019 Oscars. Or wait, is it the 2018 because they're talking about the movies from last year?
I don't know how it works, but...
I don't know how it works either, but it's 2019 and we're talking about the films of 2018. All right, Deskidora just blew up out of the mountain, and at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, how proud you must be if you were the sculptor of this costume, because it is underlit by like red lighting. There's fire explosions and fire all around it. Deskidora looks badass, man.
So, okay, when it comes, do we count Deskidora as King Ghidorah, or is it a different Ghidorah?
Different kaiju.
Okay, so what's the relation? Just three heads?
All I can see is that it is a Ghidorah, because, alternate names, Death Ghidorah, then Death Ghidorah without a space, Deskidora. Desu is the Japanese transliteration of death, and Ghidorah is just immediate name of King Ghidorah's species. But, like, my love for Deskidora, because it was at its peak when I saw that, head poking out of the fire and everything. Mm-hmm. And at that point, because I had never seen this movie before, I was like, does Deskidora have three heads? Because you only see one head poking out of that big explosion. Pretty cool looking effect, thus far, all practical. Then three heads show up. I'm liking Deskidora's design. And then halfway through the battle with Deskidora, they just start lighting him like differently and in like full on wide shots in these big, he's like walking through a valley. So yay, we see the three heads pop out. Cool. Man, the color like palette of Deskidora is really muted, and he's just kind of a light green, brownish. Like the actual physical design of him, other than the coloring, pretty cool because there's like a lot of armor plating. It reminds me of Destroya's design, which was the Toho kaiju flick, came out right before this, I think a year before this movie. But I'm like, if he can resemble Destroya, we're all good. But then the more I saw him, I'm like, he just looks like a 3-headed dragon, which it's cool because it has 3 heads. There's really nothing that stands out about this design, like color-wise. So it just looks like a big dragon. And it's quadrupedal, which I think is the first time that a Ghidorah has had 4 legs. All the other Ghidorahs had 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
I guess later Ghidorahs will have 4, but what were you going to say?
How could it possibly be in the same... it's not the same species, but the same, family, genus? I don't know.
Sure,
Either way.
It's a Ghidorah. It's
not really
extraterrestrial
connected.
demon.
Yeah, that was, sealed away. But
yeah, because it took up Mars, which, all us alien, sci-fi visitors from other planet lovers, you always think that Mars had civilization, and in the world of Ghidorah, the world of Toho and the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy, yeah, there was probably life on Mars, and then Death Ghidorah ravaged it and, sucked up the energy of the planet Mars and then came here and was sealed away. I'm pretty sure by the Elias at one point.
So one of the things that's, super dorky about this movie is that they keep giving the seal that caused this whole problem, right? They keep giving it to these kids.
They gotta have the kids do something.
And
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, they give it to a little girl.
They always lose the stupid medallion. They do it 4 times.
Honestly, Joe, okay, right now we're getting the character fleshed out of the 2 fairies and their kind of personalities. So super, super early on in this movie, I just saw the look of the actress playing Maul, and I was like, she's going to be the stoic, serious, brave one. And the other girl is just kind of cute and a little timid, but very early on, before they actually showed their personalities through, stuff in the film, I just had that guess. Was totally right. I mean, I have no way of proving it, but just by the look of the actresses, I knew they would have cast them that way. And in the whole movie, that's the only thing they harp on all the time. Maul is like, we must do this. We must. She's all strong and very, we got to call Mothra forth. And Laura's like, no, we can't do it. Gets a little tiring.
One of the things I noted to Timo, who watched this movie with me as well. He actually watched through the whole thing, or then fell asleep in the 3rd act, not surprisingly.
This is funny. The dad's looking at the fairy Mothra, and he's like, whoa. There's a few good comedic beats in here, but what did Timo have to say?
Okay. This is what I told Timo. I said, as soon as they were having the argument, she's like, I don't like you drinking that in here, yada yada. I go, Timo, Mothra is going to bring this family together. And I was right.
Yeah,
Mothra brings the family
one could
together.
argue Mothra, and you're not wrong, but one could also argue that the cause of saving our planet brought them together.
Nah, I think there's 2 different themes going on, and it heads to the clunkiness of the whole experience. Are we going to get our first music video, or is that later?
Oh, what is this? What is happening? We're going full-on television tokusatsu where, in Super Sentai and Henshin Hero stuff, you have transformation scenes that, what's going on, guys? The 2 twin fairies are in a music video. By American sensibilities, we are just thrown into this fully Japanese thing that's happening. They're in front of a screen of the Mothra seal that they're standing on top of. They're in a hero pose, which is very very much used in those type of Henshin Hero Super Sentai. The song here is pretty cool. It's got a synth jungle beat behind it, I noticed. Joe, what are your thoughts?
I laughed out loud. This is not
me
the
too.
only music video we see. somehow, like, the green screen effects are even worse in this.
It's because the fire behind them, they, like, took out frames and slowed it down.
Oh, man. It's so... the movie just stops. They look at each other, and then they're going to sing the Mothra song, but instead of singing it where they are in the movie, we're just in a music video all of a sudden with look at these cool effects.
Something that, like, it's just that we're about halfway through the film, or at least a third through, because this is a long movie, and to have that just suddenly happen is, wow. It's ballsy.
It's terrible, actually. I wouldn't even say like, it's ballsy. Like, in the other Mothra movies, the fairies sing the song, and it's really weird. It's really funny, but it's great. Okay? And this one, but they're just there. They're just there where they are, on a tree or on a stage or in a jungle.
Yeah.
And they sing. And then Mothra hears it. We cut back and forth. And this one, no. We got to see, like, a big symbol. They're in a big room. And it's just one of the most bizarre choices ever.
So, being a fan of Power Rangers, that happens in Power Rangers, which is an American adaptation of what is known as Super Sentai, aka, like, you know, a team of super-powered, usually teenagers, but I think over in Japan it's like adults. I don't know. It just depends on which season you're watching. But in a series like that, typically in the very first episode, they establish their transformation scene of, like, turning into the heroes and putting on their suits and whatever. That's just typically what happens. But that's within a, I don't know, 20 to 25 minute episode of a television series, and it happens at least halfway through in the very first episode, firmly establishing this is going to happen in this series. It's going to happen a lot, and, like, you know, just get used to it. It's, like, well into this movie, and we haven't seen anything like that. And I mean, to those of you who really watch a lot of Japanese movies and TV, you're just going to be like, why are they talking about this so much? But if you haven't watched a lot of that, it is so jarring to see it. I mean, they're just singing to call forth Mothra, but typically that would be like a transformation into another powerful form for a Henshin hero or something like Kamen Rider or Ultraman. Man, it comes way too late in this movie to be like anything but laugh out loud, which I did too when I watched this first.
That was the most entertainment value I got out of this entire movie. It was the movie just like suddenly just like, hey, we're a music video now.
I think I laughed pretty hard. Yeah, go on.
It's taking itself seriously. That's the funny thing about it. Like,
oh yeah, you're right. That's what's so funny about it is it's taken so seriously. You're right.
Yeah. I got one piece of trivia off of TohoKingdom.com, by the way.
Okay. What is that?
For this? Okay. In advance of the movie's Japanese release, Toho actually submitted the film to the U.S. Copyright Office on November 25th, 1996, with the registration number, and then it says the registration number. 4 different titles were included as part of this registration, which kind of shows the uncertainty of what the international title was going to be. The titles were Mothra, Mothra 2, Mothra vs. Des Ghidorah, and Mothra Resurrected. And almost a year later, Toho submitted the new filing, which now had it as Rebirth of Mothra, although it included Mothra and Mothra 2 as title variants. So, Rebirth of Mothra or Mothra vs. Des Ghidorah or Mothra Resurrected. What is your preferred title?
I just, straight Mothra. I mean, we live in 2019 at this point. There are plenty of movies. Unfortunately, the only one that comes to mind, and it's terrible, was the reboot of RoboCop, entitled just RoboCop.
Sure.
That happens a lot, right? They do a reboot and Halloween. That happened this last year. The sequel to the 70s film, I believe, Halloween, is entitled Halloween in 2018. So they totally could have went with just Mothra.
Yeah, they're doing that a lot now, though.
I think it would have been weird in the 90s to have done that, but I mean, it's doable.
Yeah, I don't know when that trend started, because like Doom, like video game Doom, it's both a reboot.
But that...
Yeah, and then the God of War is a sequel, and
you're talking video games. There's plenty of movies, man, that do the same thing. It's like you give it enough time between movies, and you can just retitle the reboot the same thing. We have 3 Godzilla films. We have Godzilla 1954, the one we do not speak of from 98, and the 2014. They're all just Godzilla.
Yeah, Japan's always like, they just go, just call it the same thing, I guess.
That's what they did. This movie's Mothra. That's why the film's title, like in glorious, golden font at the beginning, looks so short, because it's just Mothra.
So something weird about this. So whatever the larvae is like coming out of in the egg, it's in 2 different shots. It's like made of 2 different materials. Because like in the close-up shot, there's like 3 layers of whatever, like some sort of like. So, oh my gosh, here we go.
We get our second music video here, and this is truly the antithesis of the first one. They had fire behind them in the last one, and in this one they have a calm, sparkling, glistening ocean behind them.
Let me finish my thought. And in the second, wider shot, there's only 1 layer of egg, and it's just
gotcha.
A bizarre thing. It's like they make the egg twice and make it just a totally different way for the wider shot. I have no idea why they would do that. But whatever. Yeah, second music video. This one has higher production value because there's fog. Yeah. There's now a fog machine, and they're on.
And that's I think that's practical behind them with the fog machine, and they're like all black with like a single light beaming down on them. Yeah.
All right. So see, look. So there's like this type of egg, and then in that shot, it's like totally different kind of substance. I don't know what's going on there.
They just shot it twice, I guess. Yeah, you're right, because the egg did look way different from shot to shot. Like whatever she was breaking through. And actually, I think it's a he now. Yeah.
Is it a he now? Is that confirmed?
I don't know if it's ever confirmed, and I don't know what type of if they use he or she or it to refer to these Mothras in the Japanese, but like most often, one thing is confirmed that Mothra has kind of a feminine, look, obviously, but the roar or the cry, I guess, of Mothra is sort of an up-pitched, more feminine kaiju sound than Mothra Leo, which we're now seeing the larva go off into the ocean, and apparently it's hatching prematurely, so the Mothra fairies are scared that it's not going to be powerful enough. When it turns into Mothra Leo, it's just Mothra's cry, but it's like deepened, so it's more masculine sounding. So, it's got all the characteristics of being male. It certainly looks more like the design of Mothra Leo to appeal more to boys, because it's like a more aggressive looking Mothra.
Yeah, less sparkly.
Yeah, even though it totally has an attack that's like form into sparkly mini moths and, bombard Desghidorah. Gosh dang, Desghidorah's got flamethrowers, man.
Yeah, dude, it's brutal. Is there someone in that suit?
At this point in this shot, I don't know, but I was surprised when I found out there was a suit actor. Because prior to this, we had commented so many times on quadrupedal kaiju, where they purposefully do not put the full monster in the shot, because the human actor has to be kneeling down on its back legs. Like, human legs just don't work like that we can like walk on all fours like a dog or a horse or whatever. It seems to work for Desghidorah, though, right? Like, it doesn't look like it's kneeling in any of the shots.
Oof, day for night. This is a bad day for night, too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like they must have had some like labor laws. The kids couldn't work at night. I have no idea what's going on here, but these 2 kids are out on this rock, and then they just put a bunch of blue filters on it. The light is super harsh. I mean, I saw that, and I was like, did they make a mistake and like accidentally film this during the day and then have to make up for it later, or what?
I wonder if this is actually supposed to be taking place in like the morning light, if this is supposed to be straight nighttime, because the shots of, we just went from fighting between Mothra and Ghidorah, and Ghidorah like downed Mothra. I think with the last ounce of her power, she's going to get up and like, you know, maybe strike at Ghidorah one more time before falling into the ocean. But then we cut to what you're talking about, the day for night kids shot. I think they were fighting through the night and it's supposed to be into the morning. That's my hope, because otherwise this is very, very bad.
Oh, it's bad anyway, because that's not morning light either. Like,
I was thinking this whole time, where's Ghidorah? Why isn't he finishing off Mothra? Because Mothra is just down on the ground.
I'm thinking, why in the world don't they have a big piece of diffusion to make the lighting softer? Whatever. Guess.
Man.
Whatever.
Of all the terrible things we're talking about in this movie, this relationship between the brother and the sister really struck a chord and hit me right in the feels, man. Hit my heart. Because, you know, the brothers, the way it feels to be a big brother is like, I love you, little sister, but you're the dumbest. Like, I hate you, but I love you. You're the best. But, I can't say that to you. So they put aside their differences and, you know, concentrate hard to power up Mothra.
I'm surprised. Why don't they do this at the end? Did you have that same thought? I was like, hey, couldn't you save Mothra now?
All throughout the movie, Joe, this little seal of Elias apparently can power up Mothra, and yet they choose not to do it at times, and then at, like, somewhat convenient times, I guess, they choose to power her up again. But, like, she's already pretty much dead, and they're like, well, let's power her up. Like, you should have done that at the beginning of the fight. It's all for story pacing, I guess, right?
Yeah. So the lady who plays Beverly, okay.
Belvera, I guess.
Yeah. Aki
I like her hair.
She's 50 years old now. She was born in 1968.
Okay.
She's known for the 3 Rebirth of Mothra movies, which means she's going to be coming back.
Yeah, it seems like all the fairies are going to be reprising their roles in all 3 of these films, minus Laura. She'll be replaced by a different actress in the 3rd film, but she'll come back for the 2nd one.
Mm-hmm. She does have a German Wikipedia page, which is nice. She's a blood type B, according to mydramalist.com.
Why? Why do why do foreigners care? Like, you can't find the blood types of celebrities in, like, standard Wikipedia here in America. And it seems like you just have to casually look up actors and actresses and other, like, language stuff on the internet. And it's like, here's their blood type. Okay. Good to know.
Well, they think it's also a personality thing. It's kind of like some people think that. Some people think
astrology.
Yeah, astrology.
But, I mean, we can figure that out if you're deep enough into astrology by just, you know, on our Wikipedia for, you know, celebrities, they have their birth date.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different level of weird for an American like me to be like, why do we need... So it's good to have their explanation of the blood type thing.
Yeah. So, about astrology, by the way.
Okay.
Los Angeles.
Joe's hometown currently.
I cannot believe how many people bring up their astrology stuff all the time. I've met a lot. Like, I've met at least 2 people that, like, legitimately believe in astrology. And I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about it. Because then I have to explain, hey, I'm supposed to be a Gemini. Do you think I'm a Gemini? I would like to say that to anyone at home as well.
Personal take, you can figure out a rationalization of any of that stuff. It's just like fortune cookies. It's like, it's the answers and all that stuff and the characteristics, like the personality traits they ascribe to each one, are just vague enough to be like, yeah, that's totally me.
Yeah. But I have to say, like, half of the Gemini description does not work for me. So I don't know if I'd even agree with you. I'm just feel like I'm not a Gemini. So this thing is already, it's out. It's out.
Oh, it's totally debunked for you in your mind.
It's debunked. Yeah, man. It's over. But you know what's not over? This movie.
It's at this point in like straight daylight, which, you know, to the film's credit, to the special effects work credit, earlier on the fight was between Ghidorah and Mothra was taking place at night, and I'm like, you know, you pointed that out to me a long time ago. They're doing it at night to hide, you know, effects like of the strings and everything. But no, there's not a lot of strings shown in this movie. So good job at hiding those strings.
In a lot of ways, the effects in this movie are really good for the time.
Yeah.
Not the fairies flying around. Nothing having to do with green screen.
This is brutal.
Oh yeah, I thought they were gonna rip it in half, dude. And I was
like, it totally looks like they
could. Is this movie really
could.
going there? And then they did.
I mean, they're trying to rip the larva Mothra Leo in half.
Oh, you want to explain what happened in case someone's not watching the movie with us?
So earlier, Mothra was fighting Ghidorah, and was doing okay. Like Ghidorah at this point has not sucked up enough of the planet's energy. That's Ghidorah's plan, is to suck up the energy and morph into its second form, I guess you'd call it. Its final form, where it has wings and is like supposedly 5 times more powerful when I was reading up on it. So we have a weakened original Mothra fighting a not fully charged up Ghidorah, but Mothra gets too close as it's, doing its attacks, and Ghidorah bites Mothra on like the wings and like shakes it around, really like, pretty much takes out original Mothra. Then the harm inflicted by Ghidorah on Mothra sends some telekinetic vibes out to its egg. Mothra Leo, larva form, awakens and, goes from Infant Island all the way to where they're at somewhere in Japan and fights Ghidorah. By this time, it's daytime, and Mothra larva fights Ghidorah. Does not get very far, but I appreciate all the, new powers they give to this Mothra larva. I think they're pretty cool. It can camouflage itself, and right there, Mothra larva has a beam attack. I'd never seen that before, so I'm like, this is a new Mothra larva. I've never seen a Mothra larva rear up and project like a green beam attack at Ghidorah, so I'm down. And they make... Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, they make some comment, the kids, I believe, or maybe it's the fairies, that when Mothra larva is trying to hide, because it is very injured by Ghidorah, one of the heads bites it, lifts it up, and another head bites it. When Joe was talking about ripping it in half, that totally could have happened, but somehow it escapes, I think, due to Mothra interceding in the fight here. And Mothra larva is going around and is, invisible, camouflaging itself in the forest. So that's when Ghidorah burns down everything to figure out where Mothra larva is, and it just happens to hit it, and yeah, it falls out of its camouflage state. Man, so cool.
I made the comment on this movie that someone needs to go through all these movies and figure out who's won more fights, Mothra in Mothra form or Mothra in larvae form. So we'll actually know who is more powerful.
Yeah, probably Mothra, just because Mothra in its actual moth form shows up quite a bit. I don't even know what's happening, but Ghidorah just destroyed Mothra from behind. Mothra tried to attack it by lifting it up, and then some huge beam shot out of Ghidorah's back, basically obliterating Mothra. I don't know how many times Mothra can get up, but she's been down for the count at least 2 times at this point, and Ghidorah is stepping on her wings. So, man, Mothra larva, though, it's 2 Mothra larvas that basically take out Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Mothra. So early on in this fight, as Mothra larva is shooting its string all over Ghidorah and, seemingly doing some damage, but then Ghidorah breaks out with its heads out of the all the string that's on top of it. I was thinking maybe it has a small chance, because 2 of them took out a Godzilla back in the 60s, I believe. Could have been the 70s.
Right.
But nope, no chance. Ghidorah is too powerful even in its weaker form.
So now this Mothra needs the larvae form as well. Are we getting to the shuffling away from the fire scene? I think we are.
Yeah. You're talking about when the dad has his shoes on fire?
Yeah. And no one knows how to climb faster.
I don't know. All the parts of this movie that should be shorter and we should have more character development or just cut away, because how it feels in a lot of other monster films we've watched so far is, yeah, there's some fighting between monsters, but it doesn't take up a lot of the movie, or it shouldn't if it's a better monster movie. And then you see a little bit of the fight, cuts to characters who may not be at the scene of the fight, but they're like doing something to involve themselves in the plot. And in doing that something, it kind of develops them and we, grow attached to them. In this movie, it's just way too much of them being there at the fight, and it's nothing but fighting. And the characters, like, they keep throwing the kids bones by having them, pray, I guess, with the charm to, like, power up Mothra after it's already been pretty much defeated. And then for the rest of this, they're just watching the fight and they're not involved, and it's so boring.
Yeah, so we get kind of like our last big human scene here, because they're going to start a fire and they're going to have to climb up the thing, which we'll get to in a second. Something that's really interesting here is that Desghidorah is supposed to be consuming energy, right?
Yeah. I really got a Space Godzilla vibe from Desghidorah, both in its terms of, like, it sucks the planet's energy, and also where it comes out of early on when it, like, breaks out of its tomb. All the, like, the rocks are all big spears, like spear pillars, and they're shooting it out of the ground. I'm like, okay, that's just Space Godzilla, but it's Ghidorah.
Oh. Hold on a second.
I think I'm losing connection with Joe here.
Uh-oh.
Joe, can you hear me?
We lost Rue.
Well, if you're speaking now, Joe, it's going to be weird to edit this, I can tell you that much.
I gotta go into Skype.
No, we got a poor network connection. Joe, are you there?
Got you back.
Oh, we spoke over each other there for a second. Luckily, that didn't last too long. We can keep that in, right?
Yes, we're keeping it in. We have no choice.
We have no choice.
This will probably happen like once a commentary now. But
right. Quality podcasting. Saying. I don't know what you were saying, but the dad's shoes just caught on fire because they're so close to the scene of this fight between the Mothra larva, original Mothra, and Desghidorah, that the kids are stuck on this cliff. I mean, I don't even know how long they've been there, but they were saying their last food was like some candy, and then it gets burnt, and so they're out of food. The parents find the children because they're also somewhere around there, and then the father has to climb down to pick up the kids, and he barely escapes as his shoes are set on fire. It's pretty dramatic.
Okay, so the thing I was going to bring up was that this thing's supposed to be consuming energy, but then I guess it's not hungry anymore, so it just lights up the rest of the place on fire. I don't understand Desghidorah too much. Also, this Mothra is definitely like a hand puppet over a big hill that they created.
Yeah. No.
Look at that. It's a dude just holding up a hand puppet of the end of the larva form of Mothra.
Man, then we come a long ways, right? Because back in like Godzilla 54, I'm just thinking of a lot of shots of a hand puppet Godzilla over a hill. Right?
Right.
Or a hand puppet Godzilla with like a spray effect of the beam, coming out.
That's right. So, what do you think of the miniatures in this movie?
I think they're good. I don't know if you have like any specifics you want to point out, but as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking like, dang, Japan special effects industry, at least Toho, like by the 90s, you got your miniatures. Like if you're talking about the miniature environments they're in,
this one,
dude, the destruction of the dam here looks so good. Like it looks great.
It does look pretty good. And then earlier in the film, like the beginning shots of Mothra, and then when Mothra's like flying out of her place.
Yeah. Oh, that
around the music video. I thought that set was really cool.
I know, and that's what's shown off right at the up front of the film. Like one of the very first scenes is Mothra in that cave, looks kind of like a man-made cave, her lair. And I'm like, God, I know we're just barely starting the movie, but I'm down for this Mothra movie. And unfortunately then has to get to the actual story of the film, and then I'm not down for the movie, but at that point, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with that set that you're talking about.
Another thing in this movie is this Mothra is smaller than the larvae form Mothra.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah, the size ranges so much. And what's weird, Joe, is Mothra larva form, we've seen in movie after movie, has no trouble at all moving, speeding through the water. But Mothra cannot. I guess at that point, being a moth, it just is weighed down too much when its wings are wet. This genuinely got to me. This scene of original Mothra's death.
Okay. Do tell.
Were you not affected by this? Do you not care?
All right, so, the movie doesn't set me up to care that much, but
I know. I thought it was of the movie
nice.
Itself. I didn't care either, but I'm thinking of Mothra throughout all the films I've seen Mothra in, and when I'm thinking of Mothra in those terms, I'm like, no, that Mothra is, descending into the water, dying.
Yeah, the problem is how they filmed the two, the larvae Mothra and the adult Mothra. Sorry, yawning a little bit because it's it's this movie. So when they're putting their heads together, it just looks awkward. It doesn't look like a nuzzle, which is what it's supposed to be.
Well, also, yeah, exactly. We're getting a close up on the turd, man. We always refer to Mothra larva form as the turd.
And my thing is with that, so there's that part of this scene, but the other part, it's just I know what they're trying to do is that Mothra, he just can't, he can't get up any longer. It just sinks to the bottom, but it looks like he's pushing himself and drowning himself. That's what it looks like when Mothra actually goes into the ocean. So it's just the way it's filmed. Look at this. That's supposed to be a nuzzle, but they keep the camera behind the turd, and it's just taking up the whole frame.
So you're saying that an original Rodan standalone film, they somehow managed to emote or to invoke a real emotional response from us through the little puppets, falling down in the volcano. Yeah. This, for all of their trying to make this powerful, it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, this one is the Mothra should have just sunk slowly instead of raising up to get some momentum as it pushed itself into the water to kill itself. It looks like Mothra killed itself. In that shot, I don't think it worked for me. Oh, this underwater thing, I think it's nice. But
yeah, I just think that it had no strength left. That push up was its final burst of strength, and I honestly thought that the Mothra larva was going to kill itself then because, I'm sure there are plenty of cases in the actual wildlife nature where if a mother, passes, then the young are just, attached to the mother. They won't leave its side, and they just perish as well. But nope, this Mothra Leo's strong enough to saunter on its own. Soldier on.
That's right. They had the big fight, and now the little larvae Mothra has been traumatized for life. And,
yeah, it really has.
Go on. I like this shot, too. Mothra.
Well, and I actually have the volume up a little bit, so I heard the score there. It's really beautiful.
Oh, yeah, the score of the movie. It's a good thing to bring up.
But, especially right there. I think the score is, it's sad that it's in this movie because it's such a good score.
It is a really good score. I was thinking it when we were watching. I was like, wow, this is really, this is a big score. It feels like a John Williams-y sort of thing. And really...
Yeah, no, you're right. It does feel John Williams-y. And in this movie, rather than the 84 Godzilla, I think it feels appropriate because this feels more like a kid fair, kid adventure film. So John Williams pairs like perfectly with that for me. But 84, I was like, this is just a Godzilla movie with a type of score that does not. It's not Ifukube, so it doesn't really match.
No, I thought the score was actually really good. Yeah, this is where I thought the movie was over.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean,
I thought they'd killed the dragon. I thought that it was like
again in the second one.
Oh yeah, I literally thought when like the lady like punched the little dragon in the neck because she was like mad that the other dragon was like underwater. I literally thought I was like, oh, and then the second Mothra dies, and that's the end of the movie. And then it kept going for like
instead they decide to tack on and lengthen out the movie.
No, this is supposed to be like the end of the second act kind of twist thing, but they built it up too much, and it just feels like at the end. And there's like this resolution happening here, so it just feels like the movie is done. There are even like characters standing on a beach, which is how all these movies freaking end.
Many of them do, you're right. And with the Mothra twins on their little fairy Mothra, which at this point I guess has been resurrected. Like it couldn't fly before, but now they can fly around on it. Yeah, right here, I'm like, exactly. The movie should be done. Nope, we still have probably another 30 minutes, Joe.
Unfortunately, yes. Well, let me look at my recording time here.
The weird thing about... So do we have 30 minutes left?
Yeah, we do. We got about 30 minutes left.
Shoot me now.
Longer than
that. The biggest parallel I see to like this scene is actually in Godzilla 54. Like all the people in the hospital. But like, I guess what they haven't shown a lot of is the reason people are in the hospital is because Deskidora is sucking up the energy of the planet and making the whole planet like toxic. It's like killing all the plant life and like nature everywhere, and so it's affecting humans and wildlife everywhere by like people can't breathe but like people have legit injuries as if like buildings and destruction has fallen on them and harmed them in some way, but it's shown none of that. Deskidora's been off in like the wilderness doing its thing.
Would you say that Deskidora is an oxygen destroyer?
Wait, it's an oxygen destroyer or what?
It's an oxygen destroyer. So this is really... This would be the ultimate enemy for Godzilla.
I don't know, man. I don't know what Deskidora is, but this is dumb. Kids are stealing water from the fish and putting it in the plants. Because, again, they have to reach so far to have these kids do something. Like, this film is pandering to its child audience at its absolute worst. Which, children's films at their best, like, are, like, have enough in them for adults to enjoy and, like, aren't so about the adult stuff that kids can't understand what's going on. But this movie is just made for, like, babies, like, little kids.
Ready for this inconsistency? Look at the placement of the sun. It's not in this shot. It's the shot after, I think. Like, look at where the sun is in relation to the into the larva moth. Notice it's on the right-hand side of the moth. And unfortunately, I noticed this on the first viewing. So
you're talking about the cinematic language is a little off.
A little off. And then just see where the moth ends up later on. But this is where the movie starts to lose steam, and where our commentary as well starts to lose steam.
It's because, Joe, if you're setting up stuff, like, this is a real shot that I was like, this shot does not deserve to be in this movie. They get a beautiful shot that was beautiful. Like,
and then look at how the sun is directly in front of this larva form. Sorry, go ahead.
It's supposed to be a time lapse, Joe. It went throughout the whole night, and this is morning. That was sunset.
It swam all night and then realized it needed to make a sharp right-hand turn, or else it was going to miss its island.
Sure. So
and that was all during
in
sunset.
A good movie that what I know is that all this stuff should be set up early in the movie. Like, we're just learning now that Mothra Leo is going to a secluded island that's untouched by man, where trees live that are like thousands of years old, 100,000 years old. And it's going to the oldest tree in order to form into a cocoon and, have its ultimate form to take out Desghidorah. But, like, that wasn't mentioned at all at any time earlier in the film, and I don't know if it's even been mentioned yet, but at some point close to this part in the film it's mentioned. But, like, they just keep explaining more that, yeah, they just happen to be watching I don't know, man, you could rip this thing apart. It's just dumb.
Well, this is also the part of the movie where I literally walked up, got the case, and then looked to see how much left was in the movie. And then I saw the dreaded 106 minutes.
It's only 106. I thought it was longer than that even.
Knowing that the movie still had like 20 minutes left, I was dying. More than these people in the hospital, I think, actually.
And, Joe, like, everybody's hurt, not just like sick, like they can't breathe. I mean, they just put oxygen on I hate this reporter. I hate this stupid reporter. Mm-hmm. He's been nothing but a pest the whole time. This character was set up, so we're in the hospital, and like, he's a bad guy. They can't do enough to redeem the father, who's like a head of a deforestation logging company. He's the big boss on site, and like, the film is mixed messages all over the place. The dad is a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. But it's the journalist who's trying to expose him who's the bad guy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's because we got to know the father. And
so he can't be a bad guy.
But you're right, it does go against the thesis of the film, I guess.
Because they make the reporter, who's now in the hospital, and he's also injured. Like, everyone's in the hospital. It's total Godzilla 54, where you just see, like, the hospital hallways are filled with people, and everybody's hurt, and everybody's dying. But, like, this reporter, who, by all means of, like, the theme and the message of the movie as they go, we should think that he's the good guy, because he was the one exposing, like, the deforestation logging company for ruining this, site of some relic, whatever. Like, what are you going to do with this? Blow it up? And then, like, he just turns out to be a bad guy. Maybe he's just angry and misdirected, but everything is telling me he's a bad guy.
I don't know if I agree with you. I think it's the writer trying to make the thing more complicated, like morally, humanly complicated. Is that, yeah, journalist is being a dick, but he also wasn't doing the right thing. And the father knows that. You can see it through his somber look. But that's giving more credit than this movie deserves at this point.
But got a very Dr. Serizawa look, as like, I know what I did. I know what I unleashed.
He does. Have you found anything on like how much this movie cost to make?
I didn't see anything about a budget, but there was just this number thrown out either on Wikizilla or Wikipedia, the Rebirth of Mothra Wikipedia article, that like it grossed $10 million, and that was like, I think, American dollars. So I'm like, okay, that was thrown out, but I didn't see a budget. Wikizilla is usually where you go for this stuff. Like, Wikizilla is the bomb when it comes to, facts about these movies. Not so much Rebirth of Mothra. When you look up Rebirth of Mothra on Wikizilla, which is all fan curated, fan done, there isn't even a plot synopsis. And on some of these movies we've done, Joe, they go on for like 10, 12 paragraphs, long paragraphs into the like summary of the film. Nobody's even bothered to do the synopsis for Rebirth of Mothra because nobody cares.
Okay, the director, his name was Okihiro Yoneda. Second unit director on Ron, 1985. That's an amazing movie.
So he has some clout.
Yeah. But, second unit. His second unit director on Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. And then he directed... Looks like he directed... Did he just direct 2 of the Rebirth of Mothra movies?
I don't know. We'll have to find out on the next one, I suppose.
He's part of that Kurosawa Honda team of people. Because, like, he worked on the other late Kurosawa movies, too. So, like, Madadayo, Rhapsody in August, and Dreams. Just like Honda did. Because Honda was, like, second unit director for those movies as well. So that's interesting. So I did think that this movie was like pretty well, like visually, besides some of the monster stuff, like the nuzzling scene, which I don't think works. I thought that visually this movie was pretty good. And another exception being these music video sequences that are random and shitty. So here's another one of those, by the way.
Yeah, this is like the third one. Yeah, at least they don't go on for very long, and none of them are as jarring as the first one. The first... like them posing in their hero poses, very important in your Japanese tokusatsu.
Are they
and then they
singing
like sing
Mr.
in front of slowed down fire. That one's a lot to take in.
True, it looks like they're singing to Mr. Peanut, covered in cobwebs.
I thought of like a gourd, some sort of a vegetable,
like a
gourd. But it does look like a peanut, an unshelled peanut. Yep. Which we've gotten that in every Mothra film, but this is just the first one where I'm like, there's nothing else to focus on, so...
You think that's a gourd or a peanut?
What?
Gourd or a peanut?
It's one or the other, Joe. You know, it's the color of a certain sack of nuts.
I don't know what you're saying, Drew.
I don't know either, Joe, but it's about to bust out of that sack of nuts.
Are you saying that the nut is gonna bust?
Yeah, it's gonna... Mothra's gonna bust in that. It's gonna happen, Joe. That's all I could think of when I was watching this alone. I just laughed, because I had to... It's fleshy. It's flesh-colored.
I don't like seeing that. The nut just bust. And
little Mothras fly out. We're a G-rated podcast, guys, but this is all we got. This is... I can see how if you are a diehard, like, kaiju, lover,
so
this
the little
movie can
Mothras
do it for you.
They
form into Mothra Leo.
This is beautiful, by the way.
So they have names for, like, all of these attacks, man. Like, if you look up the Deskidora fan Wikizilla page, there's a name for pretty much every attack he does in this film. And the name for that attack, there's a huge list. I gotta pull it up.
This Mothra looks like a skunk.
And this is Mothra Leo. So, I was reading up on... All right, where are we? I found it. Abilities. Okay, it is the Illusion Mirage, where Mothra Leo is able to break apart into thousands of smaller, energized versions of himself called Crystal Mothras. So that's how he busts out of the... Yep.
Illusion Mirage.
Illusion Mirage.
Well, in the other Mothra movies, Mothra just comes out of the egg. Or out of the cocoon.
Yep. Just breaks out.
This one, little tiny Mothras break out, and then they form one giant Mothra. I gotta say, it's a little jarring. It's a little weird.
I had to make the comparison of, it's like if She-Ra came before He-Man, because if Mothra is She-Ra, which, by everything we've read up on these films, like Mothra was the appeal to Japanese female audiences, and like in all these polls, female audience goers to these movies were like, yeah, bring back Mothra, we want Mothra. They're typically present either like a 50-50 split or even a majority of the moviegoers to the films that featured Mothra. So I guess there's your She-Ra, but then you now want to take Mothra and make it appeal to boys, so you make a Mothra Leo, aka He-Man. It just doesn't work in reverse, man. No boy wants to be like, oh yeah, Mothra's for girls. now I have a version of Mothra for me, a boy. Not that I think that they thought that Mothra was for girls, but it's like it's Toho reaching into territory they don't need to, because they don't need to make a manly Mothra. Although I do appreciate Mothra Leo's design. It's pretty cool.
This movie brought to you by Japan Airlines, by the way, in case you didn't get enough these shots of the planes.
Well, Toho's got to fund these films somehow.
That's right. They should have used the Mothra flying next to the plane as like an advertising campaign. Really dig that. Which design do you like better, the Mothra #1 or Leo Mothra?
I like Leo Mothra, but not so much this one. The colors on the wings and just the colors overall it's like a jungle Mothra, because it's orange, and I actually thought a lot about the type of green represented on Mothra's wings. It's like somewhere between a lime and an emerald green. I don't know, man. It's like the color green in a crayon, just straight green, not pine green, but it's like straight lime green. But man, in this, because now Desghidorah is in its final form, I'm guessing, and it's got its wings back, so they're flying at each other. Now, Mothra, in its weakened form, could barely stand up against first form Desghidorah, but Mothra Leo is so powerful after absorbing energy from that, 10,000, 100,000-year-old tree, that it can face off against the 5 times more powerful Desghidorah. I don't know. I think it's all right, the Mothra Leo design, to get to the point. What do you think about it?
I like the original one a lot more.
I agree. I mean,
one.
Mothra Leo's pretty cool.
Mothra Leo
being
looks
just
like a
battle moth. I don't know. Do you think it's the nostalgia, though, that's telling us that original Mothra's cooler?
No, I actually, when I say original Mothra, I mean earlier Mothra in this movie, the one that dies. That's the one. Yeah. Okay. So when you said, now you're confusing me, because when you said original, I was thinking we got to go back to the 60s films.
Well, I mean, it is that Mothra. It's like a slightly updated design, but it holds pretty true to original Mothra's design, right?
I think
I don't see a huge difference between this one and the OG Mothra.
There is. It's brighter and fluffier.
Okay.
And, all that stuff. It's not yellow. It's white. In which case, I like that design. I'll just call it the Heisei, the 1992 design of Mothra. I like that one the best.
Okay.
Personally, as far as my tastes are concerned. But a lot of cliches in this movie.
They're dashing at each other all the time, if that's what you're meaning.
Yeah, there's a lot of the side swipe where we don't quite know what happened, but you'll see who wins. The side swipe.
They dash past each other. I thought this was Desghidorah, Joe. For a second, I was like, did Mothra Leo hit Desghidorah so hard that it's tiny?
It's that's the worst. They should have used a different model for that, but yeah, it's just her and her. Apparently, her dragon's a robot, which. Okay, we'll just brush past that. I'm sure they'll discuss it in the sequels.
Isn't that real convenient for the sake of the special effects team to just, melt down the animatronic and go, yep, it was a robot.
It was a robot the whole time.
The whole time. It was a Terminator.
The whole time. There's the side swipe, and then earlier in the movie when everybody was running in the forest, not one, but 3 trips, I believe, of people running. People always tripping in these movies. We've now watched, how many of these movies have we seen now?
Honestly, when I looked at the Toho Kingdom website, which is the monster movie list we go off of for this podcast, just type in Toho Kingdom Toho Monster List, something like that. We're right smack dab in the middle. And as I'm looking through that list, Joe, we've done a lot of these. We've done a lot of these.
Well, having seen so many of them, I gotta say, the trip counter, it's high. We need to go back. Someone needs to go back through all these Toho monster movies and count the trips or clip the trips and make a music video out of everything that trips, everyone and everything that trips the entire time.
Well, that was a really fantastic explosion, and then followed by a great score. What do you mean by trips? I'm not quite following you.
I mean, like people tripping while they're running away, and Godzilla tripping in fights, and just other monsters tripping all the time. Everybody trips in these movies because they have to have
Godzilla trips a lot, yep.
something, right? That, like, I guess punctuates
the scene, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, like the conflict within a scene or whatever.
Well, Joe, because once they trip, then you get the shot of them emotionally, like, their emotional face, like, oh my gosh, I gotta get there in time, or oh my gosh, I gotta run away. So it allows for, like, a glamour moment for the actor or actress, right? Glamour or just an emotional beat. Because otherwise they're just running, and you can't really get that through them running, right?
Yeah, so apparently that little medallion thing also talks to God.
It talks to whatever god that has domain over the Mothras.
Entity, has domain.
It's the kaiju god, Joe.
It brings down the symbol and locks it away, all right? Don't worry, this movie still has 20 more minutes.
And the kids just kind of gently toss it,
Jesus
and it
Christ.
flies out and creates a huge seal and seals up Deskidora again.
Yep. And
you're talking about anime and tokusatsu tropes, Joe, like just Japanese. I mean, it happens in all stories, all children's stuff everywhere. But why do we not ever take out the bad guy threat? They always get sealed away. And it's like, I guess that's the merciful way of, taking care of the problem. But also, Joe, sets it up for sequels. Oh, yeah.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Something that's interesting here is that the mom is pushing the dad with a wheelchair into the forest.
Yeah.
And they
kind of thought that too. Is that an all-terrain?
Yeah, it's an all-terrain wheelchair. Also, they really wanted to wave hi to the kids that they must have brought out to them. Whatever. Anyway, I can't.
At this point, throughout most of this movie, you do not need the parents. Like, yes, they get closer together as a family, but like, I think they just put the parents in a lot of these scenes to be like, hey, look, parents who are taking their children to watch this movie, we're not just telling your kids to do something totally reckless or like kids are the heroes, but like the parents are always kind of looking out for them, but from afar. It's the kids that really do a lot of the actual movie and the plot forward. I don't know.
Now, hold on, Drew. Yeah. One of the pieces of conflict in this movie, one of the threads in this movie, one of the arcs of this movie is that their marriage is in trouble. And when they finally go up that hill and the fire's right behind them, they grab onto each other's arms. There's a close-up on their hands grabbing onto each other. And that's how you know that this tragedy has healed this family. And so,
I'm so surprised that you picked up on the subtle hints of the arc between the marriage and the...
Unfortunately, the movie continues for 40 minutes after. Just so that we could get this scene where they're waving goodbye to the ugly Mothra.
I think he's cool, but doesn't hold a candle to original Mothra. You think he's ugly?
No, I'm starting to hate him. Actually, every time I'm not liking the look.
Well, see, that happened with Deskidora for me. I didn't like him more and more as it went on, but I can't hate on Mothra Leo.
Okay. All right, this is terrible. What on earth have we done here? Get that subtlety in there.
I like how it just looks worse and worse as the shots go on, because earlier they're in a forest where, there's some downed trees around them, but there's, something there. And in those shots we just saw, there is nothing. Everything is completely torched.
It's going to take many years of hard work. He's talking about the forest now.
Mothra Leo can just perform a miracle. Yay!
Hold on, Drew. Maybe when we have grandchildren, they can live in a different world. One where people respect the environment.
My head hurts from being clubbed.
Hey, what do you think this film's point of view is?
I think...
we have to make sure that this becomes a reality.
I think that this is a pro-environmental movie.
I do think so too.
Preserve the earth.
Yeah.
If it was only as easy as putting a filter over the footage, right? If we could cut down on carbon emissions in the real world by just, putting on glasses and suddenly seeing things as being greener or less smoggy.
Drew, I think that's a fantastic point of view. It's just like, hey, you think things are gray, you think things are dead and lifeless, just put on some polarized sunglasses, and everything just becomes so much more vibrant, right?
Yeah. Wow. This actual, on-location shot is so gorgeous.
I know. It's like, they got to put the saturation up to a 10 just to emphasize the point.
I think that's what they did to those shots. They took out all the saturation. They made it monochromatic, browns and grays. And then they, as Mothra Leo's flying over the environment with its sparklies, and then makes everything green again, they, just turn the color back up. But you're right. They super saturate all this. It is the brightest greens and the, most beautiful yellows and oranges.
Also resurrected the birds. I do appreciate that about Mothra.
Mothra Leo.
Yeah.
It truly resurrects
AKA
wildlife.
Jesus Christ.
You said it. I was thinking it.
There's a shot of the dad. Okay, so the mom's looking there with her her slack jawed, right? She can't believe what's going on. Then there's a shot of the dad sitting in the wheelchair looking all stone face. And I guess what we're supposed to see is him kind of going wow, this is amazing. I can't even think about it. But really what's going on in his head is going okay, so I know we just had this conversation, but I need to keep my job.
Yeah, exactly. He's literally, that's exactly what I thought. This movie sets up perfectly. I don't know if this family's in the second movie, but what happens in sequels where it resets the events of the characters, progression, their arcs from the other film. If the sequel just cuts out everything and they start the next movie as just a family that's, in shambles again, then that would work perfectly. Because you're right, the father has to go back to work at the logging place. The kids are going to grow up and go through more, I don't know, puberty, because they're children, and they're going to fight again, and the mom's going to be stressed out.
That's right. And then something will happen with the medallion or whatever. Although, is the medallion still there? Did the medallion just go into the middle of that forest and then fall on the ground?
I don't know what happened with the medallion. They literally just sort of gently tossed it, and it flew through the air and formed that huge seal to.
Oh, Drew, I got it. It's safe because this is a World Heritage Site, so it'll never be touched again.
Truly.
Yes. Truly, World Heritage Sites.
Truly pandering to... I don't know, man. I'm totally fine with being pro hippie, save the environment. We shouldn't nestle it all under hippie point of views, because we should, be preserving what we have, and we should be cutting down on all this stuff. Should be going green, but man, if this movie isn't just the dumbest way of telling us that.
Yeah. But we get our goodbye to the monster, the nice monster scene. He's going, damn it, I gotta go back to work. As soon as my feet heal.
Back to work, aka go and sit in the Mothra cave, it's the Bat Cave before Mothra, and it's gonna go there and just rest. That's where Mothra always is between these movies. It just sits there and is a deity, I guess, answering the prayers of all the environmentalists around the world.
The shot of the wide shot of the girl waving at Mothra just looks like that little girl is just being tortured all day on set, and she's been waving all day, and she's just given up on waving. She's just given up. It's just floppy.
By the end of this, they're done.
Hands.
You're right. The dad's totally chill. He's
can someone roll me back to the car, please?
Yeah, through this field. Gosh, I would not. That would be so hard to roll that wheelchair through that lush field.
Oh man.
And the John Williams score is crescendoing.
Oh, it's getting big, huh? Thank you, Mothra. Oh man.
it's perfectly harmless for kids, and I think kids ages like 7 and under are going to find this great. I have a friend, John. It's either John or Jonathan. I don't know what you go by, truly. I was questioning whether this would be good for kids, but he said that his young son, I believe he's around 5, something like that, he can watch that with his son, and his child is entertained as he just can fall asleep. So proof that it's not too dumb for kids.
Okay.
I guess.
Good. Well, Drew, should we pick up an iTunes review, I guess, while we're at this?
Oh, you want to...
Oh, yeah, how do you feel
iTunes
about
reviews?
the movie? How do you feel about the movie, just like overall?
It's
thoughts?
dumb. I hate it. It's stupid.
I didn't care for it.
You have to be so into these big monsters and have that just... Like, you pointed it out, Joe, the acting, the emotion, and I'm doing all these air quotes on both of those terms, given through the monsters, like in the... to point out a scene, the death of the original Mothra, falling into the ocean. It's just not there. It just doesn't, like, ring true at all. It's all false and forced, and I don't know. I can see what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't, like, have any emotional resonance for me. And a lot of the film is just the monsters. So much of the film is just the monsters, whether it be the Deskizora and fighting either of the Mothras or the Mothra larva, or the whole fighting in the living room with the miniature, the Garu Garu and the fairy Mothra. There's just no substance to the film at all. The family goes through an arc, sure, but that's about it.
Yeah, and then it ends 30 minutes before the movie actually ends. So,
and the film has exactly one thought: we need to protect the environment. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, I liked the family, the kids and stuff in the first act, but as soon as the Mothra, or excuse me, fairy / robot dragon dogfight happens, I was like, I'm out.
See, I was still in the movie at that point. I'm like, this is cool. And then I realized it had been going on for a while, and it was still going. And at that point, I'm like, oh gosh.
It's so bad. But hey, I expected it. I don't remember which of these Rebirth of Mothra movies I saw, but I remember it being bad, and this did not disappoint. And whatever. It's got some good things about it, but I can't really take it seriously either. Like it takes itself, unfortunately.
After credits scene here? The credits just rolled, and the camera's panning down.
It is panning down.
I stopped at the second that the credits started because I wanted nothing more to do with this movie. Oh no. Just pans down to the tree.
There's a tree.
1996.
And then the copyright. And then a fade out. Okay, yeah, not an after credit sequence.
No Marvel end credits thing.
No. Marvel didn't make that up either. It's in tons of movies. No. Okay.
It's most commonly associated with, but do you want to read reviews, Joe?
We got a lot, and I'm wondering...
It's been like a million years.
I think Made a Godzilla Viewer Out of Me was the last review we read.
Are you kidding me?
Which means that there's 4... What, 1, 2, 5? No, 4. 4 reviews in the U.S. for our show.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I don't really remember reading them, but let's just start there. If we miss a few, and if we didn't read yours, just let us know, but I think you're right.
So I think we're on John the Married Man.
Can I actually read that one, because that is the man, John. On Twitter, or become friends. He's the one who said that his kid is entertained by Rebirth of Mothra. Yeah. So I'm going to read this one.
Now you're no longer
Joe.
Friends.
We are friends, but it surprised me when he said that his kid, was okay with it, because I genuinely thought maybe kids, this would be too boring for them.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to read it. John the Married Man wrote, 5-star review, thank you. If you're a fan of the Godzilla films, this podcast is the best. That's the whole title. I've never written a review for a podcast, but I feel like the Godzilla podcast deserves a review. Oh, thank you. If you've never seen a Godzilla film, then this podcast is for you. If you have seen a few Godzilla films, this podcast is for you. If you've seen every film, again, this podcast is for you. Got all your bases covered there. The Godzilla podcast is the best one out there and can be listened to more than once. The dynamic duo, that's Joe and I, woohoo, flow splendidly and make for great commentators if you have the films they're viewing. This semester, I have listened to every episode and used it as a commentary for 13 of the movies that I own. Joe and Drew are fantastic to listen to as they commentate over a Godzilla film. Not only are they entertaining, but they're incredibly informative about each film they watch. Sorry, there wasn't much information on this one.
Yeah.
On a side note, Joe and Drew, your podcast has helped me get through long nights in front of the computer working on projects in animation. I cannot thank you enough for the hours of entertainment as I go through the slog of work I have each night. Jonathan.
Oh,
thank
that
you,
was awesome.
Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. This one is from DJ Plays Bass Good, 5 stars. Love your avatar name, by the way. Best Godzilla podcast, period. I have been searching for a Godzilla-themed podcast for a while, story-based or commentary-based, and stumbled upon this. The hosts do great research and deliver facts in a fun and never super serious manner. You are correct about that.
Are we ever super serious? No.
No. Come on. I can't.
These are kaiju films.
It can be listened to as commentary while watching the films or as a standalone podcast. I've always loved Godzilla, and listening to these guys go through the movies one by one is a great way to find out which movies to check out.
Do not check out this one.
Yeah,
we did not make that clear.
You can skip this one. You want to read the one from Jab Kaiju?
Yeah, because you're going to have fun reading the one above it. Jab Kaiju says, if I could give this 10 stars, I would. Wow. Thank you. I came home from summer looking for something with Godzilla, so I came here and found this. I love this. Since Jason Poor made a theory about Serizawa, great theory, by the way, I made a theory about Baby Godzilla, not Minya, to be clear, since... Oh, wait. Sans and Destroya Godzilla melted, then let's call him Sun, came back. I thought that made triggers his evolution and made him turn into Godzilla. Is this entire review a run-on sentence? All right.
It's all right.
I'm going to try this one more time from the top real quick because it is a run-on sentence. Okay. And I'm just going to read it however the grammar comes out. I came here from summer looking for something with Godzilla, so I came here and found this. I love this. Since Jason Poor made a theory about Serizawa, great theory, by the way, I made a theory about Baby Godzilla, not Minya, to be clear. Since in Destroya, Godzilla melted them, let's call him Sun, came back. I thought this made triggers his evolution and made him turn into Godzilla 200 and went past there to become Godzilla 2014. And then for Shin Godzilla, since it's terrifying, I think it's Minya. Love this. Keep on going and keep it G. Lots of exclamation marks.
Thank you for the 5 stars, Jab Kaiju. Sounded like you might have been on cocaine when you wrote this review, but we love
Jab
you
Kaiju.
anyway.
We love you anyway. Exactly. Keep on doing whatever's keeping the theory
whatever's keeping
juice
it going,
flowing.
Man. That's right. I'd love to
keep enjoying these movies.
I'd love to have a take-apart version of that like Jason Poor did. That'd be interesting. Opinionate says, 5-star review says, really good. Keep up the good work. Thumb up, 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 thumb up.
And we're going to be for 10 minutes while you explain each emoji.
Peace. Heart, eye, face, heart, eye, face. For me, it's
I don't
X.
even know what those are.
X's in boxes, a peach square, the symbol for male, repeated.
See, for you, that just means you don't have those little like emojis. I can't get close enough to figure out what those last emoticons are, but they kind of look like little fairies.
Oh.
So opinionate with 2 T's and 2 P's and 2 N's. Let us know what those last emoticons are. Yeah.
And you can let us know by checking us out on Twitter. I am at Joseph DeGaulier.
I am at Drew Daybell.
And you can go to our website, GodzillaPodcast.com, and check us out there. If you want, I also host a Final Fantasy show called Ultima Final Fantasy. You guys can check that out on whatever your podcast thing is of your choice. Drew, have you released Optic Jesus yet?
Joe, some internal things have come up, and that will not be happening to my knowledge. But we soldier on, just like good old Mothra Leo.
Okay.
After the death
Never
of
mind,
Mothra.
then. Sorry to hear that, Drew. I guess we should probably discuss that before we started recording. I guess he wouldn't have any way of knowing that. But anyway.
Play taps for Optic Digest.
We
Let's not prolong this.
We owe some giveaways, but it has been a few months, and to be honest, like, I needed to do one of these episodes, figure out how these freaking recordings were going to work before, like...
Yeah, I think we're going to have to...
Our show would get fully reset.
Figure out our giveaways from now on, since we're apart, and since we have to record this in one go. Joe and I used to take a pause and do our giveaways, like... I don't know, we used to have time to, like, take a break, but we really can't stop the recording because we're on a Skype call, and it would just be weird. Hard editing for Joe. It's already hard enough as it is. Joe, how about next time we either do a bonus episode or a commentary, because I'm assuming our Patreon donors, we love you all, listen to both. As soon as we get another episode out, does this sound good to you, Joe? Before we start the episode, I'll have a few DVDs ready, and we'll have it all set up to do it at the end of the episode, just without stopping the recording.
That sounds fantastic to me. So,
okay.
Yeah, this is all based upon the days that I get Sunday off at work.
Yeah, and I also work a lot, Joe. So, I don't think you work. How many hours a week do you work?
30 to 40. Depends.
Okay. So, full work week. I still working 50 to 60, but I like my jobs, and Joe, it's hard. It's hard to figure this out, but we're delivering on our promise of doing every Toho Kaiju flick. So I hope you guys can continue on with us. Do you have our list of Patreon donors? If not, we'll shout them out next time, right?
I don't. So let us shout them out next time. And just like me and you, just like, let's not forget what we need to do.
No, we will make sure everything's in order before we start recording next time. It's kind of late. We love you guys. I am always amazed that we still have Patreon donors. You know, we have as many as we do, since we don't release stuff that often. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Your kindness is greatly appreciated.
Yes.
And your money.
Thank you very much.
Especially your money.
I think that's going to be it. I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Rebirth of Mothra, out. Mothra Leo, out. Drew and Joe, out. Keep it cheap.